All right, welcome to the relationship show. This person writes his post, is there something wrong with me? So this is a common question you see, and it's like, what we have to realize is we all have like what's called a primary question. And so if we really like think about it, take a few moments to really ask ourselves, what's our primary question? Usually we find that we keep asking ourselves on a consistent basis, one or sometimes two main questions. And a lot of those questions, at least a very common one that people use, is like, what's wrong with this, or what's wrong with me? And each set of questions really has its own pros and cons. Basically, like that question, you can find out what's wrong with the other something or another person or yourself or the situation, and sometimes that can be good to improve or find out what's wrong so you can change it. So it's very useful in that, or find out what's wrong so you can help somebody. I see that one a lot. Like people that really want to help people, oftentimes their primary question is, what's wrong with you, or what's wrong with me? So it can be useful to have this, but also it can be very limiting or very almost trap you into this kind of loop, asking yourself like, why is this like the way? Or just asking yourself questions that don't really have an answer or are very negative towards yourself. And eventually it can just kind of run you down. So check what questions you're asking yourself on a consistent basis. If you really go deep, you'll find it's usually about one or two questions. And you're just repeating that in so many different situations, and you're just doing it by habit at this point, probably not even realizing it. They say, I'll keep this post short and sweet. I have been with my now fiance for over 7 years. When we got together, she had a just turning 2-year-old boy. Since then, this past 2020, we've welcomed a beautiful little girl into our lives. Where everything begins is recently this past February, she reconnected with her estranged family that she was taken away from over 22 years ago. Okay, interesting for sure. She was reconnected with most of her family without issue. Over the past 2 months, she has been barely at home any. So the two of you aren't seeing each other, I'm taking it. During this time, she has spent most of her time with two male cousins. She has been barely at home. Yeah, there you go. And even when she is home, spends most of her time on the phone with her cousins, either Snapchatting, on the phone, texting or calling, or FaceTiming. Well, yeah, it's probably pretty exciting if she hasn't been in contact with these people for so long, and now all of a sudden she's in contact. She's probably going to be excited. But what you're feeling right now is probably her attention towards you has dropped. So it's almost like you feel a little bit neglected. You'll also see this pattern like when a family gets like some kids in the pictures, or when they have kids, it's like sometimes women spend more time with the kids versus the guy, and sometimes you'll see the guys start to resent because they're not being treated the same way or getting enough attention like they were before. She has been less and less affectionate, and when trying to talk to her, text with her, or anything, it is like prying teeth to have a conversation with her. So what you're probably doing is like you are feeling like she's giving more attention to those people and this new thing, and you're not getting it. And so now what are you doing? You think you need to go pursue and chase. And whenever you're in this like chasing role, even if it's like a long-term relationship, like what yours is where you're engaged, regardless, if you're displaying this chasing behavior and just like she has to like pay attention to me and like seeking her validation, seeking her approval, and when you get in this pattern, it's more of a feminine quality. And it's like when you don't display the more masculine qualities as a man, oftentimes it displays or it drops her attraction towards you, and she distances herself even further no matter how much you pursue. When I voice my opinions about either being lonely or, yeah, now you're expressing your feelings, and now you're like trying to make her take care of you, and you're not being really self-reliant and strong and coming across as more, masculine. You're just not really displaying those right now. Lonely or about missing her. She has stated that I've gotten 7 years with her. She's trying to catch up 22 years with them. Yeah, I mean, she's excited about that experience. And it's like you'll find that in life too, just with so many different things. So if you have like a bunch of interests, for example, say you like going to the gym, or say you like playing music, or just use those two examples. So it's like sometimes it's almost like we go in like these long-term cycles, if you've ever noticed something like that in your own life, where we're like really into something, and then when we're really into that other thing, it's like we still care about the other things we're doing. So it's like, say I was really into music, and then I didn't really care as much about the gym. It was still there, I still went through the routines and everything, but it was like I didn't have the same enthusiasm going to the gym as I did with guitar. And then sometimes that just like sways over. Now like my enthusiasm is towards the gym, and then I'm just kind of going through the motions with guitar. That's just like a natural thing that people do. And right now, it just seems like that's what she's experiencing. It's like she's excited about this other thing in her life right now. And when you're going through a long term relationship, you're going to get those cycles and flows of interest just naturally, even if you're doing everything right. It's just part of it, and part of how to deal with it. But also dealing with it in a way that's like maintains your composure. It's like, yeah, okay, she's giving a lot more attention to this right now, but still have that confidence that say, hey, she'll be back. She'll get back to me when she really fulfills that, or when she really gets comfortable with those people, or she spends a bunch of time with them. It's like, yeah, she'll come back and she'll get her interest, and that's going to grow. And just have that surety, that certainty that she'll come back, and her interest will in you um will yeah come back, and you will just basically keep doing everything right, as far as not like chasing or making it a bigger deal than it is. It's like, just stay cool, stay composed, and it'll pass much more smoothly. I truly want her to have a great relationship with her family. At the same time, I'm getting less and less time with her. She spends the night at their house. Yeah, so you're probably just over pursuing more, and she's kind of distancing herself a little bit. And when she is away, she rarely answers her phone, either by text, call, or anything. So you're, again, over pursuit. She is also super protective / secretive of her phone anytime I'm around. Okay. I feel abandoned. I feel lost. I feel honestly like I'm losing her. There it is. There's the root. He's coming from a fear of losing her, a fear of loss. And so, when you come from that place, you're almost never making the right decisions in how you're showing up in the relationship. And sometimes oftentimes it's amplified when we get like a hint of loss, or a hint of distance, or it's less than what we had before, or less than what we think it should be. And when we start to feel like a little bit of loss, it's often just an emotional reaction to chase more, pursue more, make it into a bigger deal than it is. And, it starts with just recognizing that that is really a human nature thing to do. And then also recognizing that when you do act in those ways, it makes her feel smothered. It makes her feel like you have to prove yourself, that you're not as valuable. And it's like, at the end of the day, you have to influence somebody, they actually have to want to do it. And when you over pursue, it's like it doesn't really make people want to be with you. Sometimes it works short term, but very rarely does it work long term. We have 2 beautiful children, and I wouldn't want anything to threaten us. I just don't know what to do, honestly. Am I an a-hole for having these feelings? So that statement just seems like he's got more of like this nice guy approach, because he's fearful of being like a jerk at all, and so he's going to eliminate those things in his life if he has that belief. So he's trying to like eliminate all struggle, and so he has to be nice, he has to pursue, he has to please her, because he thinks that by doing that he's going to be reciprocated, and it's not working. And that's why the nice guy approach is really a failing model as far as relationships. Oftentimes it can work very well for business and really serving the customer. but it just rarely works in a context of relationship. So it's like, yes, you probably still want to be, a kind person to a lot of people when you're business and treating customers right, and treating, your woman right too. But it's just like, you have to also recognize when it's the right time to be assertive and stick up for yourself, and be strong and be masculine, and not chase and not become unglued or emotionally uncentered. um, yeah. So this guy right now, what he's doing, he says, I don't know what to do, honestly. And so what he's trying to do, he's trying to do more effort towards, pleasing her, chasing her, texting her more, calling her more. And it's just an illusion of action he's in. And because he thinks that the more action he does will get better results, but it's actually the opposite. The more action he does is actually getting worse results. So what he should do is he should stay cool. I mean, he shouldn't make this into a bigger deal than it is. Have the knowingness that she still loves him and cares about him, and even though she's distanced right now, she will come back, and it will always, it will always be there. Having that certainty, because you see yourself as very valuable. Um, and then also give her some space. And so it's like, the fastest way to get somebody's attention is to remove yours. So it's like, when you give somebody space, it gives them the gift and the opportunity to really wonder about you, and then they can come back to you. And when that happens, that's more of a more healthy dynamic with that push and pull.